Hi guys. So today is the day 3 of our .NET session. Today I'm going to cover the OOPS concept in this session. So you can able to learn class objects, encapsulations, data abstractions, and other concepts which always deal with OOPS. So I'm going to start my session. So what is OOPS? Generally, OOPS been defined as an object-oriented programming concept. So OOPS is kind of not a procedural programming. Let's say it doesn't follow any procedure. So which means that it's always dealt with class, objects, inheritance, polymorphism. So with using this kind of concept, you can able to achieve OOPS, and also you can able to achieve the data accessing and method accessing, and you can also define the security of your applications. So OOPS always have its own kind of concept to achieve different concepts using their concepts of OOPS, right? So why should we use OOPS? So OOPS is fast and easy to execute. Let's say you can able to maintain your application program code. Let's say if you're having a car, right? So your car will have a, let's assume that your car is a class. Okay, so your car can have a brake as a function, right? Drive as a function. Okay, so and the tire as a property, that is a variable, right? So and horn as a function, and let's say it is different kind of functions, and when you just define this in your classes, it's easy and faster, right? Everybody can just understand what that class is going to do. So where OOPS is having that future, and OOPS provides a clear structure for the programs. Let's say generally, let's say by seeing a class itself, you know what is this program is gonna do. Okay, so let's say if car means is gonna this class is gonna speak about cars, and it's gonna deal with all the cars methods and properties. So hoops actually, what the thing is, main advantage of hoop is don't repeat yourself. That is dry, which means that you don't need to repeat your code again and again, right? Once it has been developed or been coded, you can just reuse that hoops code anywhere in your application or anywhere in a class by using an object. So that's it. No, oops makes it actually, which means you can using this reusability kind of reusability kind of option, you can just save your development time. Let's say if you want to develop a same method where we are having a car, right, drives and method. So I'm having a Honda as a car. Okay, the same the drive method can be shared across two classes. We don't need to go and code the same thing in your Honda class. We don't need it. So which means that my development time is always reduced. So this is an advantages and features of OOPS. We should always use OOPS in our program.
Sir,
So OOPS concepts, right? So what are OOPS concepts? Class, object, data abstraction, encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance, and interfaces. Okay, so what is class? So class is generally kind of it's gonna define actions. Let's say it's kind of a blueprint or kind of actions which gonna define their own functionality and properties, or a behavior of an objects. Let's say, for example, your ATM is a class, and what you're gonna have, cash is your property, that is your one, and withdrawal is a method. So using the class name itself, you can able to know, oh, this class is gonna do this kind of operations, right? So this is generally a class where there are types of classes. There's partial classes, CLT classes, and static classes. So partial classes are nothing but partial classes always include a partial as a keyword before the class keyword. So which means that these partial classes are collectively combined to form a normal class. Okay, so that is known as a partial class. So sealed classes, which means that once a class is been sealed, which means same thing, before the class keyword, sealed keyword will come. So you couldn't able to inherit that class to other classes, which maintain the security. Let's say ATM is a sealed classes, and some classes trying to access that ATM thing. If ATM class is accessed, okay, so they can able to know the details of the withdrawer and account number, everything. So when I make that class a sealed class, so what is the thing is you can't able to inherit to any other classes. Okay, it has been sealed and nobody can, means nobody can inherit. So where this is known as sealed classes. Static classes are nothing but a class. If you want to create an object, so you don't need a static as a keyword before a class. Okay, but if you are using a static as a keyword in a class, which means that you don't need to create object, you can just access the its method and properties using the class name itself. That is the advantage of static classes. So see, object is, which means that it's kind of an instance of a class. Instance of a class means actually your class, as I said, that your class will have a properties, methods. Okay, so that instance will be that method instance and property instance will be generated to an object, which means that using that object you can able to access that method classes. Sorry, your method and properties of that particular classes. Okay, when you are doing an object, what is the thing is you will allocate a memory, okay, for that class. So for storing that method and objects, right? So that is used by using a new keyword. See, memory of an object will be created using a new keyword. So using the new keyword, if you create a class, the class name followed by your object name equal to new class name, means you are just generating an object and you are allocating in memory in a heap memory. So when program is executed, right, so it's automatically sending message to one another, one object to another object. A class can have a number of objects. Okay, so you don't need to create, you don't have any restrictions of creating an object. You can have a number of objects, and this object can intercommunicate with each other. Okay, this is an object. And data abstractions. Data abstraction is nothing but see the same thing. As I said that in sealed class, the data abstraction is nothing but you can just control your method and data properties to be accessed outside the classes. Let's say sometimes I want to. I'm having a ATM class, right? So I'm having a withdrawal and I'm having, which means that the other method which it's going to tell about the withdrawer account number and password. Okay, so I want to just restrict that method alone to be accessed outside the ATM classes. Okay, which means what I'm going to do is I can use abstract classes. Okay, I can just abstract classes and I can able to define that using an abstract keyword. Okay, so using that generally you can able to define that in a specific class. Let's say your abstract class is nothing but it's going to have both the method definition as well as method declarations, right? So you can just extend that abstract class to your ATM classes, and this abstract class generally contains your withdrawal method. Okay, you can just consume it, but if any class want to consume that, so you have to extend that. Okay, so you are not allowing to extend that class generally. So using that, you can able to allow data achieve data abstractions. So your most critical data or most secret data will not be known outside to the world using data abstractions. So encapsulation is generally which means that what you are just not allowing the people to what you access your method or data properties. Let's say here, which means that it's kind of a data hiding. I can say that. Let's say you are hiding in particular data in a method, right? So if you want to, you are having a variable called a withdrawal amount. Okay, so somebody is trying to access the withdrawal amount to know how much the person has been withdrawn, but I'm just making it as a private access modifier. Okay, so using that, what is the thing is it cannot be what it that person cannot access that particular variable. Okay, so which means that the particular data will be within your class only, nobody can access that. So it is generally achieved using your access modifiers, specifiers or modifiers, that is public, private, protected, internal. Public means so anybody can access that class or anybody access a method or anybody access that variable properties. Private means only the class, within that class only you can able to access that. Other outside the class you can't able to access that method or data properties. Protected in general term means only the inherited class. Let's say inheritance means you can able to inherit is different kind of thing. Let's say a base class will be there. That base class can inherit it to your child classes. That is the derived classes, and all your properties of base class can be used in your derived classes also. So at that time, if you give protected, so only when the class has been inherited to your derived classes, at that time only they can able to access your data properties or a method or a kind of other properties or other variables. So internal is nothing but your namespace, right? So your namespace, which means that your library, your assembly, I can say that. Okay, within your namespace, you can able to access all your data member and data property, your methods. So that is where the internal access specifiers will come. So polymorphism generally will have a, let's say, you can have a multiple implementation of a method or a multiple implementation of a class with same name or a method with the same name. Okay, so which is generally what it can be achieved using generally it is have types of static polymorphism and dynamic polymorphism. The static polymorphism is generally your method overloading and operator overloading, and your dynamic runtime is overriding, method overriding. So what I'm doing is I'm having a method access specifier, your return type followed by method name. Okay, so I'm having a okay. So what is the thing is I'm gonna add this two number and I'm gonna return it. Okay, so what is the thing is I'm having a requirement of having I need to add three integers, okay, of that method. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna have another method. So if you see that, so here the same method, okay, same return type and same access specifier, but what is the difference is you are having different parameters or arguments for a method. So here I'm having only two, here only I'm having three, okay, which means that this is known as your overloading of method. You are just overloaded a method with extra parameter. So this will comes under your static polymorphism. As I said, right, one I can have multiple implementation of a method, right? So see, same method, different implementations. Okay, so which differs in your arguments. So this is known as your method overloading. So operator overloading is also same, which means that you need to pass your operator runtime to get your actual results. Let's say if I'm going to pass, I'm having an operator, right? So I'm just passing in the operators to a method, and it's going to return the operator operations. Let's say plus I'm passing is an arithmetic operator. This arithmetic operator generally will gonna add and return the your results for that. So this is where operator overloading means. So overriding is nothing but, which means you can just alter your own method. Let's say I'm having this method, right? So I want to alter this method, which means that I need to do if this a and b are greater than 0, then only I need to return a method, right? So what I'm doing is, so I'm just making this method as virtual. Okay, virtual, which means that you using this keyword, you can able to override this. So in a class, let's say this is in a class A. Okay, so this is in a class A, and actually in class B, I'm just extending it, and I want to override this class A. So I'm just extending that class A, and I want to override it. Okay, so what I'm doing is public override. And what I'm doing is I'm gonna check if A not equal to 0 and B not equal to 0. Then what I'm going to do is, you got it right. So what I have done is I'm just extending this A class to my B class, and using that I can able to override a method. I'm not just creating a method again. So this method has been overridden and this code has been added extra. This code is been added extra. Okay. So this is called overriding. You can just use ritual method, whichever method you want to override. So you have to give that method as a ritual, and in a class where you want to override a method, which means that you have to use this override. Okay, that's it. So which means that this method will be overridden and this code will be added runtime to this method. So this is the concept of overriding. So let's go to inheritance. Okay, inheritance provides reusability. Okay, generally inheritance is the concept of reusing a code, as I said, right? So what I'm doing is I'm just inheriting this class A to B, right? I'm just reusing the same code. I'm not doing anything, which means that if I'm having a say public void display. Hello, right? What is the thing is using this class object, I can able to access this void. Let's say what I'm doing is I'm gonna create an object a1 equal to new of a. So this is the concept of creating an object. So what is the thing is all the properties of your A class can be accessed using your A1, right? So what I'm doing is I can just call this display function. Okay, let's say I'm just passing an argument string message. Okay. Okay, so what I'm doing is a dot. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm just reusing the same thing from your A class. Okay, by inheriting the class to B. Okay, so which means that using this A1, that is your object of A class, I can able to access this display method and pass my value, which means that it's gonna display that in your console. Okay, I can reuse the code. I'm not doing any here. I'm just consuming. That's it. So this is where the concept of inheritance is actually used, which means reusability of code. It's generally going to save your time and and also it helps us in achieving the reusability of your method or data properties. Okay, the types of inheritance is generally single, hierarchical, multi-level, multiple. Okay, so multiple generally using interfaces will be achieving it. Okay, so I will say why we interface we are using it. Why not multiple inheritance? What is the reason multiple inheritance has been omitted? Okay, so first we'll see about single inheritance. Okay, which means that one base class and one derived class. Let's say class A, as I say, right? You can see here, class A is your base class. Okay, class A is your base class, and I'm just using this colon to inherit the class to class B. Okay, the same thing here. Okay, this is known as your single inheritance, which means one base class and one derived class. This is known as single inheritance, and a base class properties can be accessed within your derived class using that base class object. What I've done it here, same thing. You can see I'm just accessing the other method using this base class. So hierarchical inheritance is nothing but it's a multiple classes derived from one base classes, which means there is a base class, right? So there's a derived class called B, which is inheriting A. Okay, there is a derived class C, which is inheriting D. There's derived class D, which is inheriting A, which means one base class will be inherited to different number of your derived classes. This is known as hierarchical inheritance. Okay, so like let's say I'm having another class C. Okay, I'm having another method. I'm just having that C. I'm just inheriting your class A. Okay, so same thing. I can just use this two method. Okay, I'm just passing same thing. So what is the thing is I'm just having one base class. So this base class method can be reusable across your different derived class. B is a one derived class which is inheriting class A, and C is another derived class which is inheriting class A, which means that using the object of the A class, I can just reuse the method, right? So I'm just reusing it. I'm not doing anything. Okay, so your C class have different different operation. It can do different operation, and it can also reuse the code uh, which has been having in your base class. So I'm just reusing that. So a1.display generally calls this your base class method and pass this best and list to your parameter, and it's going to console log it. This is known as hierarchical inheritance. One base class will be acting as a base class for multiple derived classes. So this is your hierarchical inheritance, multi-level inheritance. So multi-level inheritance is generally, which means that one base class will be there, and that base class will act as a base class for another derived class, that is your class B, and this class B will act as a base class for your another class, that is your class C. I will just explain you that. Let's say right now your A is a base class, right? So base class is derived class, class or a child class, you can say. Okay, child class of. Okay, so what I'm doing is I am just making this B as a derived, that is your base class for C. Okay, which means that it's gonna have a multi-level inheritance. Let's say I'm having another method in B. Mm, Okay, what I'm doing is if your B is a base class for C, what I'm doing, I'm just gonna create a object for your B class. Okay, which means that right now, if you see that I can able to access that B1 dot greet. So what is generally is gonna have? It's generally is gonna have your B as a base class, which means that I can able to access your B's methods with using the B's object within your derived class, that is C. So this is that there will be one base class and one derived class, and that derived class can also act as a base class for other derived classes. This is known as multiple inheritance. Okay, so sorry, multi-level inheritance, and here I'm coming to multiple inheritance using interfaces. Okay, first we will see why we are not using multiple inheritance. Okay, why multiple inheritance not been allowed. Okay, the reason being is this thing. Okay, let's say your class B extends class A and class C, and both class A and C have same method display. Okay, it's simple. I'll just explain you. What is the thing is I'm having a void display. Okay, the same void display method will be within your within your B class also. What is the thing is your C is extending both B and E. Okay, right now the same thing. What I'm doing is I'm gonna create this one. Okay. Right now, what is the main difficulties here? It's having same method name. Okay, your A class is also having display, and your B class is also having display. Okay, if you see that B extends class A and class C, and both class A and C have same method, which means your class B here A and C means here B and A is having same method display. Okay, which means that your compiler cannot design. You compile. You'll be having a compiler to compile your program, right? So it doesn't know which display should it inherit and should it display it. Okay, so prevent such situation, multiple inheritance not null. Okay, so you can't have multiple methods. Okay, multiple method, same method names within your different base classes. Okay, so if you have that while calling it to your derived classes, the derived class compiler, which means that your C# compiler doesn't know which method should it inherit it from which classes. So at that time, there is an ambiguity. To just prevent that ambiguity, what is the thing is we are gonna use, we are not using multiple inheritance. We are achieving the multiple inheritance using your interfaces. Okay, let's come to interfaces right now. Interfaces is something which allows us to generally overcome that multiple inheritance problem. So which means that you can use interfaces. Interface is nothing but you are having an interface, right? So interface generally will have a interface as a keyword followed by interface name. Here interface followed by interface A, which means that A is your interface. So interface generally will have a all your declarations. Okay, you don't all your method declarations alone will come under your interface, not your definitions. Okay, definitions means you are just writing a code within the method, right? So here, let's say I'm just creating an interface. Um, Hello. Okay, what is the thing is I'm gonna have a like, okay, value. Okay, so what is the thing is I'm having an interface hello. Okay, this interface was having only the declaration. If you see that I'm only declaring, I'm not having any kind of this kind of definitions. Okay, I'm just not having, I'm only having this declaration alone in your interfaces. Okay, so what I'm going to create is I'm going to create a class. Let's say class test. It's going to implement your interface hello. Okay, which means that in here you need to define your interface. You can define an interface. Let's say I'm having an interface, right? So okay, so here I'm going to do a so what I'm doing is I'm just creating an interface hello. I'm implementing that hello interface to your class test. Okay, so what is the thing is there is a declaration of public what get value. Okay, I'm just defining that. Defining means I'm just doing a statement inside my get value. Okay, so here console.write line test interface. Okay, once the object is for this test has been created, automatically you can just call this interface thing this get value and it's gonna execute that console.write line. Okay, which means here if we have more than two interfaces, let's say I'm having this hello one. Okay, so same thing, I'm just implementing this hello one comma one. Okay, here there are two same methods. Okay, you can differentiate but using this hello, that is your interface name. If you see, if you do a dot, so it will know this get value is from your this interfaces. Okay, so I'm having same declaration of method. Okay, so what is the thing is I can use this hello one. Okay, so this at that time compiler will know there are same method, but it's been from different interfaces. Okay, so this multiple inheritance problem will be solved using the interfaces in this manner. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to create a class. Okay, so what is the thing is if you go to your this thing, if you're gonna create a project, so generally you will be having a default class, right? As I said in a class session one, right? So you will be having a program.cs. It will have a static main function and followed by a resting argument. Okay, so what is the thing is I'm gonna have your create a method. Okay. Okay, what is the thing is I'm going to create a object within your main method. Okay, if I do p1 dot, you can able to see in IntelliSense you'll be having a display method. Okay. Okay, I'm just saving it. Hmm. Sorry guys, I think my system is too slow. That's only. If you see that I have just created an object, okay, I'm just calling that object, okay, which means that your new program is generally going to allocate memory for this your display method, right? So it's gonna call the display method, and this display method is gonna print your hello, which has been done here in your console applications. This is the part of a thing, and also the static class example also. Let's say I'm having a static class, okay. If you see that if you do a static class, which means it will say cannot declare a variable of static type program, which means that you can't able to create an object for that. Okay, so then how should I call this display method? Okay, it's much simple. Just call it using a okay. If a class is a static, then your method should also be static. Okay, then only you can able to call using your then only you can able to call using your program, that is your class name. Let's say if I'm gonna do the same thing, I'm gonna run it. See, you're right now. What is the thing is you didn't create an object, right? What is the thing is I'm just declaring the static. Okay, this static will have a class generally will have a static methods and static variables. So using your program name, that is your class name, I can able to access that properties. So here, what is the thing is I've done? I'm just using the program name and dot display, where it's gonna display your control console dot write line code, that is your hello in your console applications. So this is the one thing, and also I will show you about the access specifiers, right? I said, so let's say I'm having another class. Okay. If you see that I'm having a class, right? So I'm having a class and I'm having another class called program to the same namespace, okay? Which means that what I'm going to do is I'm making a class as a public. Then what's the thing is I'm also making that this method as a public. Okay, I'm just creating an object within the your program to class. Okay, using that object P1, I'm just accessing that display method. So right now I can able to access and I can if I run it, it's gonna print the same thing. See. So using the access specifier, I can just able to allow which method I can able to call. So right now, what is the thing is I'll be having a private method. Okay, private void get bank details. Okay, so everyone knows that bank details is generally generally a kind of restricted method. Let's say it's kind of a data thread, right? Which means that if you access this method, generally I'm going to get some kind of bank number. Okay, so if you're going to access allow other class to access it, so what is the concept? What will happen is so this account number will be exposed. Okay, so I'm just making it a private. If I'm going to make it as a private, so if I'm going to do a P1 dot, so it never displays. You see that your IntelliSense itself never displays this bank. So if you copy this and do it at this thing, so what is the thing it will get? We'll be getting an error is inaccessible due to its protection level. So I'm just protecting that method alone. Okay, so I can just control which method of a class can be accessed by other class and which will not using this your public private protector internal. Okay, so this is generally done using this access specifiers. So you can able to control the data thing. Okay, so the same thing, and also wait, I'll just show one more example for you guys. Yeah, show protected. Okay, I'm having a method protected void handshake. I'm having a. I'm just gonna handshake to the class which this class been inherited. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have a right line. Program class. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to create another class here. I'm going to use the program 3. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm gonna inherit this one. Okay, so if I inherit and if I do this, okay, so protected, right? Okay, so what is the thing is I'm just able to access that handshake. You see that. Okay, if you see that, so only the protected thing can be protected and public thing can be accessed within your object of your program 3. You don't need to create any object for your program that is a base class. You can able to create your program 3 object within that program 3. I can able to access this your base class methods. Let's say I'm just accessing this one, but still you can't able to access the get bank details. If you do that, see p1 dot get, you won't be seeing that in your this thing. Okay, so this is the example of private, public, protected, and internal is nothing but this old concept, right? So if I'm having different this thing, let's say I'm having different namespaces. Namespaces means I'm having another one namespaces. This namespaces will have generally have a different classes. Okay, so when I give something as internal, right? So internal, which means that from this namespace, I'm just trying to access that variable or method to another namespace. You can't able to access it because it's generally gonna be within your own. That is this is known as your assembly. Okay, so in your generally you'll be having assembly. This assembly this internal will treat as this properties or methods to be available with this assembly only. Okay, it never allow them to access beyond this assembly, that is beyond this namespace. So at that time you want to, you can use internal. Okay, so this is the general concept of oops. Thank you all.